Hello, everybody. It's Andy Lopez. Thank you for listening to my show. Don't panic, it's organic. We're doing the online workshop, on, and today we're talking. The class is being done from my book, Don't Panic, It's Organic, and the chapter is on organic fruit tree care. So you're going to need the book. You go to Amazon, get it, so you can follow through with the book. Thank you. Remember, you already have the book. It's in PDF format. Membership is free, so you can join and you'll get the book in PDF format. Otherwise, you have to get it from Amazon. Pre-recorded, so we'll be taking calls in towards the second half of the show, and I'll let you know when. Thank you. So the numbers, you can use the Zoom number to call, or you can call the 800 number, 888-627-6008, or 323-744-4831. I'll let you know when you can call. If you have any questions on this workshop, you can email me and send me your question. I'll be happy to answer them. So the first half of this workshop is videotaped, so there'll be no calls. The second half is going to be live, which means you'll be able to call me on any of the numbers I've set up here for you to call. The toll-free number, the 888-627-6008, or you can click on the Zoom meeting, which is 466-384-062 to get into the Zoom with us. Today is Organic Fruit Tree Care Lesson 5. We're going to be talking to you about how to keep the soil healthy, and then some common citrus diseases. So many of you know who I am, but just in case you don't, my name is Andy Lopez. I'm known as the Invisible Gardener. I do a variety of different things. This time I'm doing my show online classes. It's going to be a year long. We're basically covering my book on natural no pest control, alternative to chemicals for home and garden. We're turning it into a workshop. We're on chapter 2, and we going into we're doing organic food tree care, and I will be covering some common diseases in the pest and citrus, and then also if I have any time, I'll also be covering some common pests of citrus. So we have another week left, and so I'm going to be talking. I like to try to keep each chapter per month. The next month after that is going to be on natural tree care, right? So if you this first half of the show is taped, but that means that if you want to call, you can always call and chat with me. And then if you want to hang on for the half hour or so, then you could be ready to start talking live. Otherwise, you can just ask me questions, just chat it on there, and I'll be happy to answer it when the show starts. The other way you can communicate with me is you send an email to andylopez@invisiblegardener.com. Hopefully you send it before the show so that I can get it. I'll have it ready here. If you try to send it during the show, I don't check my email until after the show, so it won't be on the show, but it will be on the next show. So this is lesson 5 of Invisible Gardener's online workshop. Um, it's right now currently free. All you have to do is get my book. It's a $20 book. That way you can follow through with it. If you're a member, you already have the book. It's in PDF format. Membership is free, by the way, so you can join also and get the book in PDF format and get it. The print version is available through Amazon.com. So today I'm going to be talking to you about some common citrus diseases. So there's citrus tristela. There's the Asian citrus leaf miner, citrus canker, and root rot. You're all familiar with those, I think, right? So before I start on this, I want to make it perfectly clear with you that you don't really need to know the disease or the pest. You just need to understand that they're all related to the health of the soil. And you're not going to succeed in doing any of these temporary treatments if you don't immediately start paying attention to the health of the soil. Concentrate on water, too much water, concentrate on bringing rock dust, compost, and mulch. Live compost is essential. You cannot do it without. Think how Mother Nature does it. And the mulch is essential. Think how Mother Nature does it. Leaves fall, constantly adding a mulch layer. So you have to do that. Otherwise, you will not succeed in any of these common, simple disease controls, right? So if you deal with that and you'll learn, then your compost tea will be absolutely amazing and it will even work. Everything you do takes time. You have to give it time for it to heal, right? Okay, here we go. This is Tristia is a virus. It causes seedlings to turn yellow, it causes severe stem pitting, and it causes a decline, very quick decline of the citrus health, which may even kill the tree, and of course it won't produce any fruit. It's spread by ants, and they of course bring around the aphids. And so the aphids is one of the vectors that spreads the disease. To control the aphids, there's always short-term and long-term solution. And I talked to you about both the long-term solution being, of course, the soil, which you have to do to the soil to help the soil come back. That's what's going on, real problem. And of course, until then, you want to keep your citrus, and so there's certain things you can do to help them. One of the main things you want to do is learn how to do foliar feedings. You want to provide them the nutrition that they need, they're missing, the trace minerals that they're missing, right? At the same time, you can control the aphids and any other type of bug pests up there. Caffeine is a perfect tool. You learn how to make. I would go to the store and buy coffee, but French vanilla. And if you drink it, you basically buy two separate containers. One for you to drink from, the other one you want to use at full strength. So you make a batch of coffee, and then you spray it on the plants. Ideally, coffee, cream, and sugar is not a bad idea because a little bit of molasses, Granny Smith's molasses, and the cream, which is calcium, is also needed. And then the coffee, if it's organic coffee, it'll be rich in iron and a variety of other trace minerals. Now the Asian leaf miner, a lot of you have been encountering this lately. It's due to the heat of the heat rising, destroying the soil. And when the soil gets destroyed, the plants living on the soil are not getting nutrients. So again, it comes back down to the Asian citrus leaf miner is there because it's food. It knows that it's perfect food. The citrus provides perfect food for itself and for its children. So again, you got to do the short-term or long-term. The long-term is something's going on in the soil, and you better pay attention to it. I'll tell you about it in a little bit. In the interim, you want to keep them off your tree. Learn to use this. The coffee is great. I would use cold brew coffee, BREW, organic cold brew coffee. One of those little 8 ounces is like having 10 cups of coffee. Just dump that whole thing in 3 gallons of nice clean water, add a cup or two of milk, and throw in a couple of tablespoons of Granny Smith's molasses. It's very nice, dark molasses, rich in iron. Alternate between doing that and applying compost tea. So if you have biologically active, minerally rich compost tea, that would definitely go a long way because that's what the plant's missing is the various sources of trace minerals that it needs. And that's why the Brix level is very low. If you were to measure the level of the Brix level of the tree, you'll find it could be in the 10s or even lower. The ways to ensure that you're getting the trace minerals is I use called C90, SEA90. Look it up, SEA90.com. That's over 90 trace minerals. Follow instructions. You don't want to burn it because it is a salt. And then you can also learn how to add a variety of other different microbials, mycorrhiza. They're in abundance everywhere. You can go to Amazon and type in microbials or mycorrhiza. You're going to find a whole bunch. I buy a variety of different ones of them. There's one called Shark, or maybe it's Jaws, right? And it's a wonderful source. But I'm a little eccentric. I get a variety of different sources of mycorrhiza. There are many different products on the market now that you can get this from, different types. One of them is called Perfect Fungi. I go up there and I go Myco. I get my MyCO, Myco Grow. Okay, that's the name of it. It's basically my mycorrhiza, an excellent source of mycorrhiza. We have the famous citrus canker. Citrus canker is a contagious bacterial infection of citrus, which means that you can spread it from one citrus treats are another one. If you don't if you don't know how to prune your citrus, and you don't know how to clean your tools, and it causes a halo-like lesions or scabs on the leaves, the fruit and twigs of the citrus trees. The severe infection, of course, will damage the fruit as well. So I'm not try to give you too much description of these. You already should know what they are. Now, this is again, it starts in the soil. That's why it should be called citrus soil canker, right? So root rot is essentially that, very easy to describe, right? And again, it's a salt problem in the soil. Automatically, you should know you're overwatering. As a matter of fact, almost all these problems that we have just talked about, these common diseases, they all have in common the fact one of the things you're doing is overwatering. The overwatering destroys the soil, right? They don't swim very well. Microbes don't swim very well, so you have a combination of overwatering and real high heat. Sometimes you go through a long time without water, and then sometimes you water a lot because it's hot, you try to water more. So it doesn't really help. And of course, it's the soil. The key to there is the health of the soil. And so if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to have a continual pest and disease problem. A few other diseases I want to cover with. One of them is called grassy spot. It basically starts off as a brownish spot on the leaves, and often on the underside of the leaves. And the disease gets worse. They'll turn into oily-looking blisters. Again, this is overwatering. This destruction of the soil through overwatering, and of course, combination of overwatering, high heat means there's hardly any living microbial there at all, other than the bad guys. And sooty mold is a fungus that's you see on it's a blackening of the leaves. It's got the black stuff on top and very dusty. It looks like the chimney had fallen, stuff had soot had fallen. That's why it's called sooty mold. Well, that is a product of the ants herding aphids and mealybugs and other creatures that they use as a nectar. They milk them as a nectar, and they don't take everything for some reason. And then what they leave behind grows. Is a mold that grows. It needs water and it needs a certain amount of heat. One more disease, there's a whole bunch of, but this is the one I want to talk to today. It's called the HOB citrus greening disease. You can look it up. It's a lot of long history. It's been going on in Florida, and now it's been coming over here to California. They say there's no control for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it comes down to the health of the soil. They're not getting the proper nutrition. If it's chemically based, the high nitrogen always inhibits the absorption of trace minerals. So it's one of the exotic trace minerals. It's not just a simple calcium deficiency or a magnesium deficiency. It would not be easy, right? It's an exotic trace mineral. You remember saying there are 90 trace minerals? Well, it's probably number 89 or 90. There are a variety of different exotic trace minerals. Those are the ones you're not going to find in a normal way. So that's why you want to go out of your way to get a different sources of trace minerals, and one of them should have it for you. See what I mean? So that's why I get C90, SEA90. I get 14 different types of rock dust. Some are richer in one mineral, some are deficient in one mineral, but rich in another mineral. So I get a blend of those things. And seriously, 14 different types of rock dust is a very good blend. So you have it covered. You have that, and with the C90. And there's also a couple other different ways that I get trace minerals. And so, you can easily just look up trace minerals. You're going to find a variety of organic sources of trace minerals. Most organic fertilizers have some trace minerals, but not all of them. So you're going to have to really look into how to get a variety of trace minerals. I myself make a product called Super C, which has all the trace minerals that I use myself in my business. But it's not an easy task to find. But you can do it. You can find trace minerals and even so one of the best ways and easiest ways to control diseases on these citrus would be to make compost tea. What you want to do is you want to make microbial, minerally rich compost, right? And you know how if you study a little bit, you'll see that it works best if you're aerated, right? And if you're aerated and if you make it so that there's enough microbes in there and there's enough minerals, it will naturally provide the food it needs, the minerals it needs, while at the same time combating the disease. So the key here is to have a liquid blend, because the compost by itself won't have the particular type of microorganisms that you want, that I want. Okay, so basically I'm looking for certain types of microorganisms that are very good at working in the air, because that's the way they're normally found in nature, on the leaves of plants. And so there are many different types of microorganisms that work well in the air environment and the leaves of plants, and that's what you want to do. So what you do is you learn to buy blends of products that have these in them. Okay, and so you want to look at the ingredients. It'll tell you what type of microorganisms it has, what type of mycorrhiza it has, for what specific things. So some of them are for root enhancement, some of them are for growth enhancement of leaves, some are for flower enhancement, uh, right? So, so ideally, what you want to do is when you make your compost tea, because see, normally when you make compost, you're not really adding these mycorrhizas to the compost, because there's a little competition in terms of the microbes will be fighting off the mycorrhizas, so they usually are not in the same place, they don't, you can't compost them in the same place. But in the ground, once they get in the ground, they form a different type of, of cooperation between the mycorrhiza, and they work together, because they all eventually all becomes one type, like one organism. And you find that the soil will take and use various different aspects of the mycorrhiza or the microbe, or stuff that you find, because that's what happens that's one reason why you want to use manure, because the manure has certain types of microbes that are very conducive to growing in the ground, and they do well with other types of mycorrhiza, but they should be in the proper environment rather than in a compost environment, whereas in the soil you have a blend of different types of organisms forming a more comprehensive network, right? And so that's what you want to be spraying. And so you want to learn to, when you make your compost tea, to also add a variety of other different types of mycorrhiza and microorganisms. You get a blend. You'll find someone will say, this is a blend of the top 10 most used, right? Stuff like that. And those are the ones you want to start adding to your spray, to your compost tea, so you have this really, really cool, incredible blend. And then when you aerate it, you have even more punch to control the diseases. And at the same time, you'll also be controlling the pests. So the trick is to use the compost tea to your advantage, to learn how to buy products that you can add to your compost tea that enhance the microbial life. Learn how to buy products you can add to your compost tea that increases your trace mineral levels. Like I love that C90, right? That C90, 90 trace minerals, you can't beat it. You learn how to add just a tiny little bit on a regular basis. I also use rock dust. You can add any type of rock dust to your compost tea. You have to learn the amounts. Too much, you kill everything, right? So usually the rock dust is not a large amount that you need to add. Depends how much size you're making your compost tea at. In a 55-gallon drum of compost tea, you probably could use a cup of rock dust, okay? And that cup ideally should be a blend of different sources of rock dust. So if you call me in the past, if you recall me saying in the past that the greater the pest, the greater the stress, the greater the pest, the greater the disease. Well, that's exactly how to protect your plants. If you can keep your Brix level up at a certain level, that's a measurement of sugar in the plants, but also relates to how much minerals, trace minerals the plants has, and we can talk about that later. But then the pests won't come anywhere near you. The pests will not come over. It will not attack your fruit tree if it's not food for it. It would only attack the trees if it's food for it. It would only become food for it if the Brix level, if the Brix levels drop, which also means the trace mineral levels have dropped. It's usually not all the trace minerals, but these are more the ones that are specifically you have to pay attention to are the exotic trace minerals, which are very, very difficult to get on a regular basis as it is, and so you want to learn how to supply those along with the regular amount of trace minerals from calciums and iron and magnesium. And the trick is you don't want to, just add one type, like 10 pounds of unless you're a chemist. If you know how to mix stuff, even then it's not quite the same. So I've learned to use materials like rock dust, which is a blend of different types, different different levels of different trace minerals, right? So azomite, I like using because it has a certain amount of calcium in it, right? Also iron in it. It's like 2% iron, which is nice. Then there's glacial rock dust, and there's a acrimin from Southern California, which is 30% calcium. And I have 14 different types of rock dust, so they all are richer in one type of mineral than the other one. And the odds are, if you blend them all together, that you're going to come up with a really nice source of trace minerals. I add, like I said, C90, SEA90. I reference a lot the use of a refractometer and how you use that to measure your bricks levels. It's a very easy tool to learn to use. It will give you some really good ideas as to what minerals you have. You just have to learn that a refractometer doesn't give you specific measurements of minerals. There are other tricks and techniques you're going to have to learn how to determine what types of minerals it has. It just tells you that it has a lot of minerals. The more expensive a refractometer, the more you'll be able to do that. That refractometer measures other planets and what what material they're made of, what elements they're made of. So it can be done, but usually the refractometer that we get is really used to measure sugar. And us good old boys have figured out that the sugar levels also means uh, trace mineral levels, and then you have to learn how to you know whether what trace minerals is missing, because it doesn't really tell you, they have calcium in it or you have magnesium in it. You should just know you have a Brix level of say 32. Usually means there's a lot. If you were to then test it, you can send it to a lab. You'll see the minerals, and you'll see that it's fairly accurate in how it measures the level of minerals compared to the level of sugar. So you have to. I would learn how to use a refractometer. Because maybe you can spend $100, 50, $100 for a good refractometer. Learn about bricks, and then you also that way when you start getting sources of trace minerals, you'll be able to see if any of these sources are good for you. They work for you or not. Right? It's the same thing with sources of soil microbials. Uh, with those, you have to send off to a lab on a regular basis, maybe once a year, to see what kind of soil microbials you have on your property. So the most important thing you have to remember about controlling pests and diseases on your citrus is the soil, right? So that's the first thing you want to, that takes the longest too. That's why there's, the short-term and long-term solutions. This is a long-term solution. So the sooner you get working on your long-term solution, the sooner you're going to get it done. And so the soil is important. You want to make sure that you don't overwater. You want to be constantly providing a source of topsoil to it, a source of compost to it, learning how properly apply mulch, right? And rock dust and organic fertilizers, learn how to use leaves, learn how, right? Help build up the soil environment so it protects it from the sun. So the sooner you start working on that, the sooner everything will start falling into place. And then all you have to do is just be there to keep it going, right? So here, let me tell you the most important part, the key to everything, and why the pests won't attack. So it comes down to carbohydrates. And there's two types of carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates, right? And so it's interesting because when your tree is stressed out, or you end up producing simple carbohydrates. And simple carbohydrates is a perfect food, is an energy source of food for a pest. And so they have evolved over the centuries or millions of years to know when food is perfect for them. They don't have to say, oh, that tree is deficient in trace minerals. They say, eat, let's eat. And so it's just worked out really well, right? The tree is getting deficient in trace minerals, is going to die, might as well get eaten up and get recycled. But when it has all the complements of trace minerals, when its functioning is totally healthy, it produces complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates cannot be absorbed by the insects. So they go, nope, we can't eat that. And they leave it alone. 90% of all diseases are spread by the insects. So figure it out. So the key to protecting your plants is them having a high Brix level, which is easier for you to understand. Usually if you have a high Brix level, you're doing good in terms of the trace minerals, right? So that's the key right there that you need to understand, is having high trace mineral levels high bricks level. Makes it real easy for you, okay? So next week we're going to be talking about, well, we still have one more week left in the organic fruit tree care. And so I'm going to be covering everything we've gone over before, and adding a few more new things for you. Normally the way we're going to be doing is we probably end up having homework things for you to do. What's going to happen is soon I'm going to the class, the workshop is going to be a private workshop only for members. So members, it'll be membership will get it free. And since right now membership is free, this is a good time to join. Just go up to the website, click join. It's free. But as soon as possible, as soon as I get the workshops together, it'll be only free to members. And membership right now is $20 a lifetime, and $55 for regular membership, which comes with the printed version of the book, which is a $20 book, and also includes shipping. But that's going to be changing. And then this workshop here will be open to the general public. I'll always have something going on half hour here. But the other workshop that I'm going to be doing for members is going to be again, it'll be on a weekly basis. We're going to have almost daily meetings via Zoom. In other words, if you want to talk to me, it's available on a daily basis. The full workshop will be happening once a week. But basically, it's every week there's going to be something going on in the workshop, and we're going to be covering everything that I can think about and everything you want to know about. So if I were you, I would join today while you still can. The membership is free. Just go to invisiblegardener.com, click on join, and follow instructions. Very simple. Any problems, let me know. I had a friend who went to join. He had a very, very old iPhone, didn't work. So you may want to do it on your computer as long as it's not really super old. So pretty soon, in a few minutes, we're going to be opening up the phone lines to allow people to call and talk to me. And and I have some emails I'm going to be answering for folks. So if you have a question concerning today's workshop about trace minerals or bricks or carbohydrates, anything at all, even if it has nothing to do with the class, just send an email to Andy Lopez at invisiblegardener.com. Now, I've told you before what happens if you just send an email. That I got so much emails, hard for me to find. So a few people said I haven't answered them. That's because I can't find them. What I prefer for you to do is join. If you join, you get the newsletter. Through the newsletter, you can respond to me. It goes right to a certain box. Now, if you don't want to join, you have this thing about not joining. Fine. It's just that the newsletter is free. And then the newsletter will allow you to ask questions. For this workshop. Once the workshop becomes for members only, you can only access the workshop through the link that's in either the newsletter or on the members only page. You have to have a user ID and password to get in. But this one here will be the general public workshop. We'll have something always going on. You can send email to that, but you have to ideally just get the newsletter, click on I have a question, and you'll be able to talk to me directly, okay? Otherwise, I'll do the best I can to find your email and respond to you in a timely manner. You can always type in radio show workshop in the subject matter and see if it gets channeled to the right place. So in another few minutes, you can call and talk to me. There are several different phone numbers which I have given out for you, and that you can do. Ideally, I want you to use Zoom. So the numbers again are 888-627-6008. Or you can call the direct line 323-744-4831. I prefer you go to the website, to either my website or to the radio show website, and click on the Zoom meeting so you can come in through Zoom. After a while, I won't be announcing these other phone calls anymore. You're just going to have to do them through Zoom. I figured that if the kids can do Zoom, we can use Zoom too, okay? So the phone lines will be opening up now. If you have any questions, just call. Use the Zoom. Ideally, please use the Zoom. Real easy. It's free software. Allows don't worry. You won't be on the screen. It's just be hearing your voice. But if you don't want to do that, use some phone numbers, and you can feel free to call. Make sure your volume is at a reasonable level, not really, really low, because it won't work that way. So thank you very much for listening to my workshop and being involved. Coming up next is the other half of Don't Panic, It's Organic. After that is my Cosmic Spaceship Show. Bye now.